It's time to kick off day 2 of DreamHack Masters Vegas. It has been a grand start in the AMGM Grand, and already we're going to be preparing to see one team go home. That's right, blink and you miss it. It's elimination stages for 2 teams now, and one perhaps unlikely candidate. It is North going up against Complexity Gaming to start things off, and I'm joined by a bunch of analysts who are going to tell you exactly why North got to this position and whether or not they can survive it. I'm joined by Jason Moses O'Toole, Chad Birchall, and I'm going to say it nice and slow, Janko Paunovic. Thank you very much.
Well done, Alex.
Still butchering all the pronunciation. I just need to work on my Serbian. Yeah? Okay, eventually. I feel like we've worked together long enough. I should have a good grasp of your second name.
When you come to Belgrade, we'll figure it out.
Now that sounds like a plan. Do you know what else sounds like a plan? Trying to discuss Complexity and their shortcomings to start off. I mean, we have already stated, probably if we were seeding them, 16 up against first seed in that Astralis Complexity mismatch. 16-5 the score, Jason. This was not, by no means, the best showing we expect from Complexity.
I think it was pretty close to the showing we were expecting from Complexity, to be fair. I mean, the big thing is they bring in Desi, who's a player who's had problems in the past. He's literally probably played for 90% of the teams in North America at some point. He's been kind of like America's ringer.
Where did that name kind of start coming from? Just the fact that he was always never actually committed to a team? Yeah,
like teams like, at a certain point have just like not wanted him to be like a long-term solution to their roster, but when teams have needed someone, he's just a very skilled player. So he's someone you can just bring in and just say, you have so much talent, just do whatever you want. Let's get through this event and then we'll figure out the long-term viability from there. But obviously bringing him in is somewhat of Complexity, just saying we need a little bit more strength, we need a little bit more fragging power, we need whatever it might be that you can provide, and it hasn't. The issue is they don't really know how to use it. They don't really seem to have kind of a plan of how they want to use some of their players. Surreal and Def, the 2 UK stars that they brought in, those guys haven't developed. I mean, they're decent, but like they haven't stepped into the roles that Complexity is leaning on them to become.
Chad, now from a player's perspective, watching them in game, there were some fundamental flaws you outlined before. I'd love to know if you had them again. I mean, I was speaking to Dupree when he just finished his game, and he was just telling me that we'd get 3 or 4 spray downs because their trading was awful. They couldn't actually do the basics in terms of flashing their teammates in, the trades. They weren't there.
There's a certain level of spacing and stuff that you need to have at this elite level, especially when you're taking bomb sites or you're trying to pick a player. And if you're just basically treating it like a pug, not that I'm saying these guys are, but their level isn't the same as an Astralis, right? So they're going to make those mistakes. And the weird thing is, right, getting in players like Surreal and Def and then building a team around them is not the way that I think you should do it. If you're going to get players from other regions, you want to get them to fill a role or be a star in your team, not try and build the team around them because it's a lot of work to do. Bringing in Desi as well, that hinders development. They qualified with Ape, I think, against Liquid.
Their roster's been a bit topsy-turvy.
When you're changing players all the time, it makes it hard to have chemistry, and that is a thing you need, especially when you're flashing teammates in. So.
We have to remember as well, part of the reason why they qualified, some of the games they played against Liquid, for instance, that they won. Liquid is playing, I think Pimp was in Denmark.
No, they were all in a
all of them? All right,
on 140 ping at like 6 a.m. in the morning.
So there is a little bit of a not controversy, but a little bit of caveat to their qualification.
Okay. But when you look at that, right, so like Misfits beat Complexity to qualify, Renegades beat Liquid to qualify, and then Complexity again beat Liquid to qualify. Right. So, poor Liquid.
Poor Liquid, and if we need to get to a point where we've got gigabyte internet everywhere, and we'd never have this problem.
Alex for president of the world.
It has nothing to
I probably could do a better job than some.
Has nothing to do with internet speed, actually, Alex. Sorry? Has nothing to do with internet speed. It's about latency and geographical distance.
Thanks, Janko.
And that, my friends,
ruining the dream for everybody. Yesterday, he was the dream
crusher.
Why
is this discussion?
Right. Moving on to North.
So, right. Dream crusher.
Some analysis.
Let's talk North.
This is a fun one.
Yes, this is fun because I don't know if people really know where to place them right now. When they were rising through the ranks and everyone was starting to call Dignitas the best Danish team, they had the best Danish duo. Now the North has come. The North organization has stepped in, of course, FC Copenhagen, and we're just waiting to see where we want to put them in that kind of top 10. Janko, is that right?
I think that's a fair thing to say. They also played Inferno yesterday, so it's always tricky with a new map. I think still a lot of teams have been approaching it as the old Inferno, while the map is a bit different. Things have obviously changed, especially the banana area. So yeah, I wouldn't take too much away from that game. They were a bit unlucky in the first half with their economy constantly being reset. So I think they're definitely a team that can bounce back after a loss. I think the professional environment in which teams like North and Astralis and so forth are really helps them to cope with losses like that. You could see Astralis is probably the best example. I mean, known for their chokes in semifinals of big tournaments, but that just seems to have completely disappeared.
Yeah, and also, I mean, if you want to talk about the spacing and the lack of trading and the complexity side going up against North, when you look at some of the talent that they're going to have and that they have in this roster, like it's just going to be slaughter if it's that same kind of play style that complexity brings to the table. I just want to see. I want to see this. I don't want to see this on Inferno. I want to see a standard map because I want to start to get an idea of what this new look North is going to be like.
Just one short thing with all the spacing thing and all of that. That's something that's very difficult for you, like as a coach or as an in-game leader, to teach or tell them like this is how you're supposed to do it. It has to be something that every individual player knows. Like that's where game sense comes in. And you realize, okay, this is where my teammate is. This is where I am. If I'm too close, we'll just get mowed down. I need to bait him a little bit so I can trade and stuff like that. It's something you don't really consciously think about. It's something that's like in the back of your head.
It's second nature, and I see that resonates with you, Chad.
Yeah. It's not something that's easy
like
to teach
breathing.
for sure. Yeah, exactly.
You've tried.
There's YouTube videos on how to breathe. So you can basically learn anything on the internet. With the North lineup, it's been said that people don't think that AZ is going to like fit in the team well because people were praising how good of a support player Rabino was, and I agree. I think he was a very good support player. But I think with the roles that they had him playing, AZ can just almost plug and play, right? He gets to reinvent himself. I don't think he should take the role of Magix or Config. I think he should do his own thing. And the way Rubino played certain T-sided roles, he was kind of like a lurker as well as being a support. That's something like as a player, if I got that opportunity, that'd be awesome. Like being the lurker is free frags.
You had the best job of any player.
So you'd be happy with that?
Dropping guns.
No, we're not got that one.
Dropping Glocks.
I liked what I said there.
What did you say?
No, too late now. I'm over it.
Okay.
Vetoes, Chad, have you been thinking about this one at all?
I've been thinking about it. I wrote it down again just for my proof.
North
Again,
were one of
with
those
this
teams.
writing down stuff.
But I do remember we would often praise the North roster for having an incredibly deep map pool and praise MSL for that. Are we still in that position now? AZ stepped in? Probably not.
Well, I obviously they have to develop it, but they still have that core 4, right?
Yes.
So putting AZ in the position of Rubino makes it easy. I think that's what they're going to do. I don't think they're going to build around him. I don't think they need to. That's the standard band for complexity right there.
Cash.
I think we're probably going to end up towards a nuke again, right? If you're North, surely hindsight plays a role here and you don't let Inferno slip through. You don't want that again. It's not worth it. When you're the better team, you don't need to take that risk. And I'm surprised they did yesterday.
I'd be surprised if complexity. I mean, this North. You don't play North on nuke if you're complexity.
Well,
I'd be amazed.
They don't particularly like train either.
So okay, North left. I mean, if that's the case, they veto Inferno and nuke. We're left with Cobble.
Oh, not Inferno again, North, you man.
No, they're gonna go.
No,
they're gonna go for nuke.
They'll go for nuke. Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
Please.
See, Cobble is a
Surely.
gift right there for North because it's fallen off since Cajun joined the team. They moved away from it as one of like MSL's favorite maps, and they've really like struggled on it since.
Yeah.
So nuke makes sense, and it's going to be a quick game for old mates from North, I think.
It's going to be a quick game from old mates from North.
I mean, and Complexity played nuke already yesterday, so even in that sense, North could have, watched that game a little bit if they really wanted to. Not because of Complexity, but because of Astralis, obviously. So they will pick up a few things from that game as well.
I mean, this is the big thing as well. At the start of that game, actually, it seemed like Complexity was going to be able to put up a little bit more of a fight than they actually did. They were winning some initial fights outside, but like once Astralis kind of zoned in on the game and started setting up more crossfires, there were a couple rounds where like Glaive was pushed up very deep outside, he got picked off, and then the player in stairs was isolated. So as long as North is just setting up standard crossfires, I think they should be fine. But it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of attack towards the outside to start out for the T side of the Complexity guys. We didn't even really get to see their CT side a whole lot.
Well, I mean, it does seem like at this point in time, there is a whole lot of doubt surrounding Complexity, and there's no doubt about it. But we have had a time to kind of focus on why it is that they have been unable to move forward. You said building around 2 players doesn't work. You don't like that idea.
I just think if you're importing people, you need to be importing them for a reason, not just to start a team, right? Like, if you're going to bring in like
they
a
were
whole
picked up because they thought they were.
Yeah, no, but
good.
they grabbed them, and now it's all the other players have been changed, but them, right?
Sure.
So over this Complexity roster, like Uber's come in, he's new, Desi's new, Android's new. They're all new around these guys, right? The roster's changed quite a lot. Didn't they have like Whitmer in there, and they had like all these different players? So it looks like the stable players are the guys from the UK.
There's essentially no experience on this team as well. I mean, that's one of the big factors as well. The most experience they have is Warden, their coach, who, having played from him, he's not a tactical guy. He's not like going to be like the X's and O's type coach that we always talk about. He's like more of like a mental state, a hype coach type situation. So they need some kind of experience. They're going to get some here, obviously, but they also, it just feels like they lack some kind of leadership to have, like most North American teams do, in trying to dictate how this team wants to play, how they're going to utilize all the skill they have in this roster, and then the result is what we see in the server.
Now the question I have towards you, Yanko, is that when you look at what North have now, when you look at the fact that Config broke out, I mean, it was not. I remember when it was first picked up and everyone was like, who is Config? Now we're sitting here praising him as one of the best players in his region. You look at that, the same with Magis. The same stories are coming through. Do you think it's simply a matter of time before these players, perhaps in this roster, perhaps not, are going to be at the very, very top of Counter-Strike Global Offensive?
I think at this point it's only a team thing, right?
It's only
can they evolve to that point as a team? I mean, we've seen them win Epicenter, Moscow, which was a big tournament, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, beating VP by a large margin on those 2 maps in the grand final. So I think it's a matter of now with this roster, this is going to be like their stable 5, figuring out how to use all of the players, because it does seem with all the role swapping, like Config is going to move to a more of a lurker role, but he's a super aggressive player. So how successful is he going to be at that? You kind of have 3 players who all need space. AZ, Magic, and Config, they're all very aggressive. They're not like, for example, Rain. Rain, in my eyes, is the type of player who can be more passive, but still incredibly useful to the team, you know, very, very skilled. So I'm interested to see with time, how will they develop as a team? How will they approach it? How will MSL try to fit all the pieces together? On paper, sure, there's a lot of firepower, but we've seen at times lineups who have a lot of firepower but don't have good chemistry. They don't mesh really well together.
They need that glue. Gonna ask for predictions now, gentlemen. I'm gonna work our way from Jason down. What are we saying? I'm presuming there's gonna be a lot of white lions on the screen on that prediction graphic.
Yeah, it's going to be North, and it's going to be North by a large margin. I would put all the poker chips I had if we were still doing that game.
No,
I know. I'm just saying
them.
if I would be all in.
Okay, he's
Still going with it.
figuratively all in. What are you going
North.
for, Chad? North, and I presume North, yeah.
North.
No faith in complexity. Will this really be the end for the North American roster? The voices behind the action are Anders and Semler, and they're standing by. We can go ahead and have a quick chat with those guys. Auguste, Anders, how's it going? I went super French with that. I mean, I think that's
I can't believe you can pronounce his name and you can't pronounce mine.
It's because I studied French, I didn't study Serbian.
Of course.
Does anyone?
Does anybody study Serbian? I mean, I presume they do in Serbia. That's a safe assumption to make. Loving the jacket. Loving the jacket today, Auguste.
You're
It was
right,
a
Alex.
tough morning for Alex.
He's,
It really is.
He went to
he's
bed early
struggling.
as well, didn't he?
Do you need
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
do you
I'm
need
feeling
some
fresh.
nuts, Alex? You know,
Do you know what the real difference
they're
is?
warm.
He need some nuts.
You've got warm nuts.
I'm out. I'm
Don't
out.
we all?
Hi, Anders.
Actually,
Nuts, hot, salty nuts.
Obviously, the real difference is that he didn't start with champagne. I think that's what threw him off. So
you know what? I actually think DreamHack have caused a bit of a problem here.
Yeah.
Really dropped the ball on the
morning
game.
champagne.
Yeah. Mimosas
Yeah.
would be a
Shots
nice
of
touch,
tequila?
I think. Ooh, tequila.
One of my favorite books, that is.
100 real quick with Jason Moses O'Toole.
I'm
Alright.
kind of curious about them picking Nuke again. I feel like that's just like an interesting scenario, isn't it?
There's a saying, gluttons for punishment, Anders. Gluttons for punishment.
Yeah, I mean,
But is there a better place to take this for complexity?
I don't know. Like,
Not really.
The thing is. There we go.
Ruthless.
But the thing is, they did a good, like, Dep had a lot of good openings, so they could have been something that could have worked out. It's just, I mean, I don't know, like, it could go either way, couldn't it? Like,
No.
on the one hand, North could have seen their demo and just said, this is how they play, and then figured it out.
Yeah.
And that's the danger of picking
But, I mean,
the same
they were
map.
This is the
Losing.
issue, is that there's not going to be any respect for complexity.
Yeah.
And the players yesterday didn't give anybody any reason to respect them. And so unless we see a completely different complexity, like they wake up on the right side of the bed, right? I don't know. Maybe they went out and gambled this morning, won
for
a bunch of money. I mean, something that's going to lift them up and get them to start landing some headshots.
Well, I mean, not losing 2v4s and 2v5s would be a fantastic start, which, of course, Astralis were doing to them. We're going to leave it with you guys as we kick off day 2.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Alex. Yeah, I think everyone has to agree that the North is going to be winning this game. But I don't think it's set in stone. Best of 1 games are notoriously strange. And I think this is the one mistake that people make when they try to predict, who's going to win, especially if they're doing betting or something.
Sure.
They, for one, they forget that it's a best of 1 game. And, if you win both the pistol rounds, especially if you're playing on a map like Nuke, things get really weird suddenly.
Sure.
And the other thing is people tend to compare day 1 results with, and then they try to sort of have the logic follow through it. They play really well on day 1, or they played really bad on day 1. So surely, day 2 is going to be the same, and it's not. I would say forget day 1 and just look at the match objectively. Don't try and compare from one day to the next. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it if you're trying to sort of guess who's going to win.
I'm looking at the match objectively, and I'm looking at a complexity that won both pistol rounds yesterday. and then proceeded to lose both anti-ecos.
Was the following round, yeah.
And proceeded to really struggle to actually, I mean, all right, what really happened, a primer for you guys in case you missed the match yesterday. Totally possible. It was first match of the day. It was versus Astralis. You definitely favored Astralis in that match. I mean, it was hard to get around it, and I think it's pretty clear that everybody's favoring North. But what we saw from Complexity yesterday was very standard, basic things. And if you're going to go for the same kinds of strategies that we've seen 100 times, a team like Astralis and a team like North should be able to punish that. And we saw that from Astralis yesterday, where Complexity were clearly trying to, okay, this is our strat, we're going to put down the smoke wall, blah, blah, blah. And they're expecting it all to go into place, except that Astralis are just not going to respect their strat. Astralis were just running right at them, taking fights, constantly messing with their heads, and Complexity clearly didn't have the experience to deal with that kind of pressure. So I think the North are perfectly capable of doing the same thing here today. If it's going to be more of the same from Call, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. No, I think something very similar could definitely happen. And again, Danish teams are pretty good on nuke in general. Now, we are just getting the last couple of players on the server. One of them, I think, is having a technical issue. So please stay with us. We're going to be right back after a short break. Don't go anywhere. First game going to be coming up right after this.